My name is Esther Nwachukwu, and these are the top stories. President Tinubu issues fresh order to tertiary institutions on increase of fees, approves buses for students. Senate confirms Ijeoma Egwuatu as minister. Protest hits National Assembly over El-Rufai's ministerial nomination. Senate begs NLC to shelve impending strike. Atiku Peter Obi to adopt final addresses in petition against Tinubu's election August 1. Details now. The world news begins with President Bola Tinubu ordering federal tertiary institutions to stop the arbitrary increase in sundry fees payable by students amid the hardship experienced by Nigerians due to fuel subsidy removal. The president's fresh directive was contained in a statement today by his special advisor on communication strategy, Dele Alake. The statement also conveyed the approval of the president for buses to be made available for student bodies of all universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education across the country to ease the movement of the students and ensure no student misses classes due to the challenges of transportation. President Tinubu also approved the removal of all restrictions on the students' loans to make it available to any interested student. The president also cautioned the leadership of tertiary institutions of learning against any arbitrary increase in fees and charges, saying that if possible, any form of increase should be suspended for the time being. Alake noted that President Tinubu is working to ensure students also benefit from conditional cash transfers and food distribution to mitigate the challenges of the current time. Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed Ijeoma Egwuatu as minister, citing his enthusiasm for Nigeria and his curriculum vitae. Egwuatu accepted the ministerial nomination because, according to his declaration, he is committed to serving the nation. Rivers State lawmakers, led by Senator Barinadam Pigi, praised former Governor Ijeoma Egwuatu as the best in the state during a screening. Impigi, on the other hand, asked senators to let Egwuatu go, claiming his resume is insufficient to list his accomplishments. Egwuatu was then told to bow and depart by Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Jibrin Barau, Deputy Senate President, celebrated the former governor's work in Rivers State, saying he was astounded by the impact he made on the state. Barau inquired if he could continue his work if confirmed as a minister. Meanwhile, a group of protesters have stormed the National Assembly in Abuja to bar the confirmation of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai as minister. The protesters, under the aegis of Secure Nation Group, today told lawmakers not to confirm El-Rufai. The group said they were surprised the former governor's name came up as a ministerial nominee despite his religious biases, stating that it was dangerous to the country's unity. VOP News gathered that the protesters, who were reported to have been holding placards and chanting songs, defied the presence of security operatives who barricaded the NASA main gates. The group convener, Ahmed Lawal, said the former governor ordered Kaduna State Urban Planning and Development Authority to demolish private buildings, schools and hospitals in the state and rendered hundreds of residents homeless. Lawal called on President Bola Tinubu's led government to investigate and prosecute El-Rufai over genocidal attacks on predominantly Shia Muslim communities in Kaduna State. He asserted that it is on record that many Nigerians have demanded the investigation and prosecution of the former governor, even at the International Criminal Court, over the genocidal murder of many Nigerians and the destruction of properties in the state. Meanwhile, the Senate has appealed to the Nigeria Labour Congress to shelve its impending strike on fuel subsidy removal and continue negotiations with the federal government. Senate resolution followed the consideration and adoption of a motion at plenary today. The motion, titled Urgent Need to Avert the Intending Strike of the Nigeria Labour Congress, was sponsored by Senator Kawu Suleiman. Mr. Suleiman, in his lead debate, said the NLC had given the federal government a 7-day ultimatum to reverse what the union termed anti-poor policies or face an indefinite nationwide strike from August 2. He said the NLC had directed all its affiliates and state councils to immediately begin mobilization of workers and other Nigerians, including civil society allies, for a long-lasting strike and mass protests. Mr. Suleiman expressed worry that the strike would cripple the country as commercial transport operators would withdraw their services, while markets, schools and healthcare facilities would be forced to shut down. According to him, the action could hit the polity went into court, saying that gains from the strike were far below the cost to either of the political parties in conflict. The senator said the strike threat by the NLC, if not averted, could plunge Nigeria into deeper economic woes, dislocate businesses, hunger, and frustration. Now, in a recent development, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has fixed Tuesday, August 1, 2023, for the presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, respectively, to adopt their final addresses in their petitions against 2023 election. Now, both Atiku and Peter Obi are challenging the declaration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu by the Independent National Electoral Commission as the winner of the February 25 presidential election on various allegations. Now, in hearing notice issued by the tribunal and served on Atiku and Peter Obi indicated that the adoption would be held by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. The hearing obtained by journalists also indicate that the same documents have been served on President Tinubu through his lawyer, Chief Wole Olanipekun, a senior advocate of Nigeria, while those of the All Progressives Congress were served on the party through its lead counsel, Prince Lateef Fagbemi. VOP News gathered that Atiku was served through his lead counsel, Chief Chris Uche, a senior advocate of Nigeria as well, while Peter Obi was served through his lawyer, Levi Uzuku. INEC got its own notice through its counsel, Abubakar Balarabe Mahmood. APC's lead counsel, Fagbemi, confirmed receipt of the hearing notice. By the practice direction of the court, a date for final judgment would be fixed immediately after the adoption of the final addresses. To talk about this, I actually have via the telephone Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid. He is a political analyst, social affairs commentator as well, as the title indicates, is a legal practitioner. Barrister Tunji, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6.
Good evening, Esther. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So tomorrow, August 1, the presidential candidates of the PDP, the APC, the PDP, of course, PDP, Labour Party, APC, including INEC, will be tendering their final written addresses at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal at 9 a.m. And then tomorrow we will hear from the court when the final conclusion of who actually won the February 25 presidential elections would be decided. From tomorrow, we would now know when the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal judges will give us a verdict. Now, let's look at all that has transpired. All the while this case was at the court, all the while these political party principals have been trying to disclose and declare that they actually won the February 25 election. 2 days ago, about last night, the Economic Intelligence Unit gave a prediction that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal would not overturn the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They reiterated that most of the policies that he has infused would basically make his government or his administration lackluster, but that in the long run, Nigerians will begin to see the benefit and that there will still be more hardship imposed on Nigerians because this is just the first phase of it. So questions have arisen from what that statement means. The Labour Party presidential candidate has responded. The PDP also has responded. They've called it several names and they say that that report basically has no substantial basis. Now, the question I want to ask is, tomorrow, what exactly or how exactly will these political aspirants declare or give their final address to actually convince that they actually should be named the winner of the February 25 elections?
Yeah, like you said, I didn't hear you clearly.
You did not hear me clearly?
Your question.
I asked you that tomorrow, how will these political parties defend the fact that they actually won the presidential elections that took place on February 25? How would INEC defend what that's the declaration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was objectively and neutrally done based on how elections were conducted? And how will the APC defend the stance? We do know that we got feelers of how issues transpired at the court. How exactly will they defend themselves with all that has transpired all the while?
Yeah, that has been done already. The one they are going to do tomorrow is just to do what we call adoption.
Okay.
You know, before now, what we'll do in court is that you lawyer can book and make the argument.
Okay.
What we do now is the reducing to writing. Those things we saw the other time that we filed around the different addresses that have been all the parties, the APM, the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party. Tomorrow now be adopted. In other words, they will form the progressive fight by them tell the court that they want to adopt it as their argument in that matter. So in other words, rather than they come to court and start making other arguments, the court will just they present the court and they make it a final submission on that. So all arguments, all legal arguments that what happened in court have been put into writing.
Okay.
And follow what they will do to it will take up to an hour for them to conclude. And thereafter a day to be pitched. But the other one we're in the semi-final of the game. So by tomorrow, semi-final will be played.
Okay.
Then the judgment will be delivered thereafter.
When you say semi-final, because from what the report states is that after they've been able to present their cases tomorrow, each of these political parties, including INEC and the APC itself, that when the final verdict will be declared, when they will eventually give us the conclusion based on what these presidential candidates have presented on who won. Now, here are issues that have actually, that would I say a couple of political analysts have been talking about. We've read a lot of reports as to this current administration, with what Nigerians have been feeling and how they feel that tentatively some Nigerians are not happy with the development. Even the supporters of this current administration or some persons have already been complaining about how these policies are stifling. Now, with what already INEC has stated as its evidence, with what the APC too has deposited at the Election Petition Tribunal, what can you predict could be the stance of these political parties? What I'm trying to ask is this. What can you say with all that has happened and the body language of the judges at the Election Petition Tribunal, can you say could transpire? I'm not telling you to predict, but with the feelers that we've got, all the infos that we've got, what can you say it could actually portend?
Esther, we all have we've all seen the process start before the court in terms of the final address.
Okay.
It's already it's flying around. You've seen it, I've seen it. Even though I've not gone through the details.
Okay.
It would be unfair for me to it would be unprofessional for me to predict what will happen. That would be jumping the gun. That would be.
I know that it would be unprofessional for you to do so, but I'm asking based, for example, I'm sure you saw the final written address before. They're coming to present this in court tomorrow, but you saw the final written address before. The Labour Party claims that the blurry result sheets, the about 18,088 polling units whereby the results there could not be properly accounted for, and that the fact that there were blurry A4 papers, how did INEC declare that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu won? That is one, and a couple of other infractions, including the $460,000 that was paid. And based on the Constitution, if there is any case like that on any individual, it already has possibly disqualified the individual. Plus the double nomination, which the APM has actually stipulated as one of its strong cases. So the PDP too is stating that about 25 states of the Federation, including having 25% of some of these states, is their strong point, and that means that they are the top notch. So quite a couple of confusion have arisen from what these political parties have presented at the Election Petition Tribunal, and that's why I'm asking, what can you actually give as a would I say a possibility on what could transpire, especially if the evidences presented are very strong?
You see, Esther, like I said earlier on, there is no way I can give any position or answer your question without evaluating the evidence before the court or without looking at the issue before the court. So it will be unsafe for me to break into that, because the court, what I say before the court, it will be prejudiced. That was funny. I thought that. And there's no way I want to give any opinion that I will not go into the issue proper. We all know the argument before the court. The argument has to do with the 25% is required in Abuja or is not required. It's not the actual number of votes that is required. That they vote casted for you somewhere or that counted for you somewhere. And not properly the issue of the act not following the regulation. These are the issues before the court, and that's are the issues the court will look into. So the judges are discretion to determine whether or not the particularly presented a case and supported their case with evidence. So if the court believes that the are not in your line or in your favor, court will rule against it. And if the court agree with you, the court will make judgment in your favor. So that's exactly what will happen. What they will do tomorrow is which has already been done, it's already been filed, for them to submit to our the judges will go and review it very well, and come back and give judgment. Tomorrow they will say a date to be communicated.
Okay.
So that will happen. Adoption. I say my own particular position now. It will be subsidized if I do that.
Okay, Barrister Tunji, the president is to address the nation this evening by 7 p.m. Nigerians are waiting to hear what the president has to say. That address is actually impromptu. There is no special occasion to be celebrated, and so it's quite surprising that the president wants to address the nation. But before now, pilfering, armed robbery, broad daylight armed robbery, kidnapping activities are already the order of the day. In fact, in Adamawa State, some residents went to the state government where they actually store grains. They stole it, and beyond that, they also went to some private individuals' shops to loot their properties in there. And the claim is that there is hunger in the land. Also, Godswill Akpabio, who is the Senate president, is complaining of some redundant individuals who pass through the Senate Assembly there, and that they are very insecure that their phones could be stolen. They are no longer safe. The question now is, this situation is getting to the doorstep of everybody. It's not just an elite, average, or poor man right now. And it almost feels like Nigerians are being pushed to the wall because they've not been reacting, they've not been saying anything. Do you think that breaking point is already getting close, and possibly that's what elicited the president to grant a national address this evening?
Exactly, that may be the reason why the president wants to address us. It is very that things are not, the centers are not, the things are hard, and people are agitated regarding what is going on. The hardship is getting more, and the president is even realizing that as well. Notwithstanding that, they are not doing enough to ensure that the hardship is reduced. Because I hear them saying today that prepare for more tough measures. So we are still, this is just the beginning. So earlier the government power realizes that look, the issue on ground is what they are doing. That people are already talking truly, because people are pretending. People are not pretending. They are talking, and they are trying to. They need a quicker intervention. So what the president should be doing is put into that quick intervention and bringing up more of a measure that are seen by them. So as far as I'm concerned, the president has realized that he believes there is a problem on ground, and then in the circumstance, there is need for him to do something. And that's why he has. Probably that's why he's trying to address us to maybe give us that assurance that things are okay and they'll do. Assurance should not be a statement alone. To stand up for people to say, look, to believe things are coming up. That mistake has been made. It has been made, and until that mistake is corrected, nothing will happen. For me, I believe that something is not properly done. And it is the backbone of the problem we're having today now. What that is done, the parents will come and address us. Let us know the kind on ground for people to have at least believe that this hardship that they are going through now, they are being asked to endure, lead to a better circumstance. So I think it's proper for the parents to come and address us. I want to commend the president to bring that, because unlike before now, you even be begging our former president to come and talk to us. You may take him back.
Some persons think that possibly it's a way to create that sense of empathy or make him more appealing now that the judgment of the judges at the Election Petition Tribunal is closed. Do you think that could be one of the possibilities? That
may not change anything from the court.
Okay.
That may not change anything from the court. That's what the president says. We have a judicial that is independent, and we have a judicial that did their job. That whatever anybody says will not change anything, and that's why I'm not bothered about what the economic intelligence unit said.
Okay.
They said that it has their own opinion, and their job is to forecast, and I see that they're forecasting. So what they have done is not enough, and that whatever they have done will not change the mind of the court. The court should act based on what the government brought them, except we don't have a judiciary that will act on its own.
All right, Barrister Tunji, thank you so much for taking your time to analyze these issues on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Right. Now, in order for us to wrap up the World News at 6, here again are the top stories. You heard that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has issued a fresh order to tertiary institutions on increase of fees and approved buses for students. The Senate has confirmed Ijeoma Egwuatu as minister. Protest hits National Assembly over El-Rufai's ministerial nomination. Senate begs NLC to shelve impending strike. And Atiku Peter Obi to adopt final addresses in petition against Tinubu's election on August 1. That is a wrap on the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Do stay tuned right here at 7 o'clock while the president gives his nationwide broadcast. We'll be streaming live for you to be part of the broadcast live. Thank you, and thank you for staying with us.